I love Star Trek, which is why I hate bad Star Trek. And, well, Offscreen Kim and I have just finished watching Star Trek Into Darkness. Literally, we are right now leaving the theater, heading outside as we speak. And now it's time to talk about what we thought about the movie. Kim, what were your thoughts?
It was overall a good movie, but it had a lot of flaws.
I would agree. I think even better than Into Darkness, Star Trek pandering the living crap out of everyone who liked anything about Star Trek would be a better way to put this. There was even more pandering than in the 2009 movie.
They kept trying to cater to the fans way too hard. They brought up practically everything they could from the original series. They brought up tribbles, they brought up mud.
There was DS9 references in there.
Yeah, they referenced Section 31.
Well, we don't want to give away too much because we want to go spoiler-free first, and then we'll talk a little more detail. So I guess overall, a quick spoiler-free, without giving away the plot. I would put it very equivalent to the first movie in quality overall. It was action-packed and fun. Again, the details and the science were there was just no logic to it at all. They talked about many times the ships being able to warp right to their. You could pretty much warp from Earth to the Klingon homeworld, Kronos, in apparently almost no time and with no ships in the way. You can even beam, literally, from Earth to Kronos.
You can also call from just in orbit of Kronos to a communicator on Earth, not subspace. You can call communicator to communicator.
I want their cell coverage.
Earth. Me too.
And of course, the big question that at least I was interested in, I don't know about the rest of you, is the villain in this movie Khan? Well, I'm not going to say right yet because this is still the spoiler-free part, but the question will obviously be answered. Anything more to say before we go spoiler, Kim?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, and we're back, and now the camera's comfortably away from my face, for which you should all be grateful. Let's get on with the spoiler part of the story. Kim, do you want to discuss the first scene?
Okay, well, first scene of the movie, we've got Kirk and company down on this primitive planet where they're trying to not violate the Prime Directive and save their lives from an exploding volcano at the same time.
The aliens, that is.
There are several things about this scene that I do not understand. Kirk is carrying with him some kind of sacred scroll artifact thing, which then he just ditches to get the aliens to stop in a certain place. Why did he take it? How did he know that would work? What was the deal with that?
The implication seemed to be it was just to get them to move away because Kirk somehow knew that the volcano that's going to blow up their whole civilization was going to blow up apparently the one building they lived in.
But the volcano was already smoking and spewing lava. If these people are too dumb to know that you run from an erupting volcano, their species deserves to go extinct.
And as much as I hate the way the Prime Directive is usually made in Star Trek, the one like this, where we shouldn't get involved even when it means a whole civilization will be destroyed, a civilization that doesn't know whether to run away from a volcano where its only building is at the base of, is a good argument for that kind of Prime Directive.
Number two thing I don't understand about this scene. They go and jump in the ocean and they swim down to the Enterprise. Why is it underwater? Why is it not in orbit? The fact that it is underwater makes it necessary for them to reveal themselves to the primitive natives when if they had been in flipping orbit they wouldn't have had this problem.
But you're forgetting about the primitive natives' orbital radar system.
Ah, yes, the ones built out of bamboo.
Yeah.
Ah, gotta watch out for that bamboo tech.
But anyway.
So, they managed to save the civilization, and we get to something that I don't not understand about this scene, but something that I hate about it. They're continuing to play the Uhura-Spock sexual tension. And in this scene, it manifests in Uhura being unprofessional and annoying and delaying Spock with personal bullshit when he should be getting down into that volcano
this
and
will
detonating
happen
that
repeatedly
device.
later on.
Oh God, I wanted to slap Uhura so many times in this movie.
Yeah. Just when I started to think that Uhura was going to get better in this movie than the last movie, she pulled out the same garbage as before. Same with Kirk, and we'll get to that in a minute. So there's a terror bombing in London. Apparently there's some Starfleet person whose daughter is dying, and some mysterious man who you've seen in the previews probably offers her chance to cure her. And as payment, this guy apparently demanded that he bomb this whatever place that's deep underground. We find out later this is apparently a Section 31 hideout. Section 31, I was getting excited, and that was the last we ever heard of Section 31. Do you think Khan actually wiped out the secret underbelly of Starfleet?
I hope not.
They were one of the coolest things Star Trek did in the end of Deep Space Nine's run.
But yeah, Section 31, their reference to that felt like a lot of their other references in the film. We'll throw this in here to prove that we know about it and make the fans squee, but it won't have a point.
Or worse yet, we'll wipe our butts with it to show that we know what it is. Just enough to know how important it is to you, while we smear it all over ourselves. Then we get to a good part, which is Pike chewing Kirk out. And rightly so, Kirk has been a douche and is just as much a douche here as he was at the end of the first Star Trek reboot movie. Kirk manages to get the Enterprise taken away from him for his douchebaggery. And this will not affect him at all because he'll be back in the captain's seat before the Enterprise goes out on its mission. Still, it's good to see that they're acknowledging Kirk is a douche, just not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I love how the Kirk that we know would have broken the Prime Directive, gone home and said, I broke the Prime Directive, it was the moral thing to do, what you gonna do to me? This Kirk instead hides what he did.
Yes, he actually falsifies records.
Lies about what really happened, and Spock, when Spock tells the truth, not even realizing that Kirk wouldn't tell the truth, Kirk chews him a new one
And
for having done this and calls it a betrayal of their friendship.
Stabbing in the back is the phrase he used, and I think we're supposed to side with Kirk on this. Remember, if your boss does something bad, even to save your life, saying what he did is not cool, even if it's your official report. We find out Pike is going to be the captain of the Enterprise, and he's actually going to take Kirk on as his first officer. I was actually excited about this. I would have liked to see this. But then the villain attacks all the Starfleet admirals and captains who are meeting to discuss hunting down the criminal behind this bombing, and Pike gets killed.
Now wait a minute. A bunch of the current admirals and captains are killed, and people who are not wholly qualified have to be moved up into their slots. Where have we seen this plot point before?
I don't know, about 4 years ago?
Yeah! Well, and I also love how Kirk suddenly realizes that it's Khan's plan to attack them here, that it was all a gambit. He wanted them to have this meeting so they'd all be in this room so he could kill them all. First of all, Kirk only realizes this in time to stare stupidly out the window as the drone comes up.
It's important for him to learn this in time to do nothing.
Second, why in God's name is the room that they would meet in standardized? Yes, you want to have all these captains and admirals meet. Why do they have to meet in...
Public?
No, not public. Why do they have to meet in the Red Ward room or whatever? And why does this room for this super special meeting of captains have a big flipping window to San Francisco that any maniac could shoot in? God damn me.
Because we need to recreate that greatest of episodes, Voyager, with alliances. Now that's the model to follow, early Voyager. And in case you missed it when Kim said that, yes, this villain is in fact Khan. And I called it early on, and I was calling just about all these surprises throughout. So, through a series of misadventures and fun and exciting action scenes and all, I guess we'll just cut right to the climax. There's not much important that happens in between.
No, people get positioned and things.
People get blown out of vehicles because J.J. Abrams loves blowing people out of vehicles.
There's some Silence of the Lambs brig talking to
Khan. Yes.
Yeah.
Could you hear the tribbles, Clarice? Oh, yeah. There is Don't get me wrong. I really liked... I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but the guy, Jeffrey Cumberbatch or something Cumberbatch. The name Cumberbatch will stick in your head at least. He does a really good job as Khan. I liked him. I don't know if I'd say he's better than Ricardo Montalban because he's a very different Khan. He's like Khan from Wrath of Khan, but without any of the charm that he had displayed before. This is an on the verge of losing his crap Khan.
He's just brutal.
Yeah, but he has a ghost of the charm that Ricardo Montalban brought to him. But again, what we see of Khan before in the original series is Khan in a different situation. That's Khan trying to schmooze his way in and be charming. This is Khan when he knows he's already been played and he's just trying to brute force his way through things. But he is effective at brute force.
Once again, though, we have someone who looks not at all Indian playing Khan.
But I don't care, because Ricardo Montalban played him well, and
well, he owns
whatever
that
his name,
role.
Cumberbatch, played him well, so I can live with it not being Indian, but here's a crazy thought. Since you had a Latin man playing Khan originally, why did you have to say he's from India? Why couldn't you just say he's Latin? It doesn't matter. He's foreign. It doesn't... Just have the race that he is match. It's not like there was a previous Khan before Montalban you had to match. But anyway...
Well, you know, all those ethnicities look alike.
Oh, yeah,
no one will ever tell the difference. Yeah. So they're at Kronos. They've got.
Oh yeah, so that's another factor that we need. I mentioned this briefly, and we'll go into a little more detail. Do you remember that really stupid point in the 2009 reboot where suddenly Scotty from the future was able to figure out a way to beam things pretty much anywhere, anytime, and it was easy? They're going with that. They're continuing to say that you can beam something from Earth, which was Khan after his attack on the Admirals, all the way to Kronos, the Klingon homeworld. You know, many, many thousands of light years away.
Several days travel, even on a high warp starship.
Yes. And that's another thing, is apparently traveling by starship is kind of going across the street, because every time they're warping somewhere, I know you could argue that they're just cutting out all the minimal time, but it seems like every time they warp somewhere, it's just taking a few minutes. And there were several times that, for one reason or another, the ship got knocked out during the middle of warp, in the middle of a battle. There was sabotage or something. Every time the Enterprise gets knocked out of warp, they get knocked out of warp right next to the planet they were going to anyway. No, they never get knocked out halfway there. They get knocked out.
Yeah, like 92% of the way there. Not even 92, 98%.
In shuttle reach. Shuttle was able to go. I will say this, though. In the case of Kronos, that was a plan, so that might have been planned to go at that point where they were...
Yeah, that was deliberate sabotage or sabotage.
One thing I did like about this is that this had the... And this could be a Section 31 thing. There were the plans upon plans upon plans that were building on each other. And I could call them, but they were still interesting to call. It was kind of like Game of Thrones. You might be able to tell what someone's planning, but it's still cool to see them working out.
Oh, and Matt kept calling the twists in this movie. He
Every
was
time.
on fire!
We're going to go to a murder mystery night tonight, so let's see if I do well tonight. Matt McKinney guessed wrong in every way that night. Off-screen Kim figured out the mystery completely.
But yeah, they get to Kronos, and they've redesigned the Klingons yet again, and I don't understand why.
The old Klingon design looked cool. It was the classic. So much so that they make jokes about the old TOS Klingons, and it's basically the same as the new Klingons, the new TNG Klingons, I mean, but it's just looks weirder.
It looks kind of to me like they're trying to split the difference between the original series Klingons and the TNG Klingons.
And he had each one of his little things pierced with a weird
ring. They gave him ridge piercings, and his ridges looked different, and their eyes looked kind of glaucoma-y.
Well, they had
weird
like ice blue eyes, which is very weird on a Klingon because they're dark.
I don't understand what they were trying to do.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a point to that. If you're going to pander, why not pander with the thing that we know?